Hi. Today I thought I'd show you two planes. One is the number 8 that you see here. It's the longest plane that Stanley made. It's a jointing plane, and its purpose is to flatten a long run on a board. Because it's so long, it'll automatically flatten it. But really what I want to talk to you about today is a special plane. So this is the only box that I've ever made to put a plane in, because it's the only plane that I had that was, number one, that expensive, and number two, to me, that pretty. The box itself is made out of rosewood, and it has a little display area here so you can take the plane and put it up on the felt without damaging the plane. It's the Stanley number 1. It's a fairly early one. It has beautiful rosewood front knob and a rosewood tote. And people were discussing online whether or not they thought it was a useful plane. Now, my opinion is that all planes are useful. But this one here, I consider a finger saver. For people that use electric tools like jointers and things like that, they should never put a piece of wood under a foot long through a jointer, or they might lose some of their fingers. So when I come to a project and I've got a piece that's small, too small for a jointer, or really too small for a large plane like this, because it would be hidden underneath it, I go to my number 1. Let me show you how it works. This Stanley number 1 has a B casting mark inside the base here. It's a beautiful little plane, and you can see how small it is compared to my hand and to the number 8. Let's move this out of the way for a moment. I'll tell you about the box in just a second. You saw the number 8 work. Long, jointing the board and making sure that it's close to absolute straightness. Because of the length of this plane, it's able to do that job. This will never perform that same job. Because of the short length, it has a tendency to follow minor curves, and it will not joint a board. But it's good for smoothing small items, particularly in projects like miniatures or model making. You can see it gives a really nice shaving. I've got a little bit of a knot on this end up here, right here in the board, so I'm starting the plane a little bit askew to let it dig in a little. And I've got it set very, very fine, so it's giving a very simple, fine shaving. The way I hold it, because people have talked about their hands or mitts were too big for this plane, is I put this part of the tote in between my forefinger and my thumb. I put my forefinger right up here on the lever cap and my thumb on the other side, and you see it actually fits nicely into the palm of my hand. On this side, I keep a finger underneath here and a thumb on top. And that's so that I can control and push this down to keep it tightly on the wood as I plane. Now, there's no lateral adjustment on this plane, so it's a little more difficult to get the blade perfectly in line with the throat. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll make a cut, and then I'll look at that ribbon, and I can see that on one side of the ribbon it's super thin, and on the other side it's thin, but it's not as thin as this side. And that means that it's taking a deeper cut on this side than it is on this one. And the only way to adjust that on these planes is to just tweak it a little bit like that with your finger. You don't want to hit it with a hammer. I know some people have talked about that, but there's never a reason to hit any of these planes or the wooden planes with a hammer. So you can adjust it simply by turning the blade a little bit. Down here, the brass knob is very small, and you can see that it's a reverse thread. So when I push like that, it's actually, when I'm turning clockwise, it's actually pushing the blade forward. So it'll give a deeper cut. Now, that's a beautiful ribbon. For a plane that some people say are just toys, I would say that's not at all a toy, and it works beautifully. Now let me show you the box. What I did here was I veneered the top on a piece of 1/4-inch plywood underneath there, and this is all solid rosewood sides, and here's a piece of teak plywood on the bottom. And what I did here was I bought some of that foam insulation, and I wrapped my plane in saran wrap so that none of it could get to the plane, and then I filled around it with that foam and I let it expand. Once it had expanded, I cleaned up the edges, I took the plane out, and I wrapped a little bit of silk around the foam. And now you can see, and like I say, this has been probably 15 years that I've had this plane, and it fits nice and snugly in the box, and the top goes on like that and reverses with an area to put the plane to show it off. So there it is, a number 1 Stanley and a number 8. Both basically the same. The only difference is the lateral adjustment and the size. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It was fun doing it, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.